Welcome to today's presentation, the link between stress and pain. There's a lot to be said about it, and we'll dive into that today. But yeah, there's definitely a link that needs to be addressed, frankly. All right, so the objectives for today are to, one, discover the root causes of stress and its effect on pain, learn why traditional approaches to stress management don't work, and empowering yourself with some tools to start reducing your stress and your pain. So if you look at our guy on the left there, he looks pretty frazzled with headaches, neck and shoulder pain, back pain, upset stomach, tight muscles, heavy chest, issues with the throat, and then a lack of hunger. So he's having some issues and sounds pretty stressed out. So I guess who I am, my name is Brian McKay. If you didn't already know that, I'm a master coach at Pain Free Life Coaching. I suffered with chronic pain for about 7 to 8 years. Took me several practitioners, started studying with the Czech Institute. They gave me a wonderful baseline for knowledge, but unfortunately, the practitioners that I worked with weren't able to completely help me. So I studied under a level 3 Czech practitioner for 3 years. I studied the Postural Restoration Institute's philosophy and took a class with them. And I finally discovered the secret to healing my pain from a physical therapist. And so I love to share my experience and knowledge to help reducing the suffering in the world, because there's a lot of it. I'll leave it at that. So again, kind of a little bit about my issues. I have broken my femur, compound fracture of my femur. I've shattered my kneecap. I had, as you can see over here, some L5-S1 issues. An anterior bulge coming out the front rather than most people's, which comes out the back, it's a little different to deal with and kind of resolve, but nonetheless the same basic principles still apply. So I have my stories of pain and kind of digging my way out of it, and that's my goal is to help you dig your way out of it. So what is stress? So physiological stress can be defined as any external or internal condition that challenges the homeostasis of a cell or an organism. And so it can be divided into 6 different aspects that we're going to cover today, that being the physical aspects, the chemical, the electromagnetic, mental, or psychological or psychic stress. Then we have nutritional stress as well as thermal stress as well. This is a little bit of a different take on it, but looking at the internal stress, we've got pain, we've got potential disease, bacteria, virus issues. Lack of sleep is a huge stressor. Our thoughts, which is most people, when we think of stress, we mostly think about kind of mental and life stress, and there's so many more types of stress than that most people don't consider. Looking at diet and the often inflammatory effects of the standard American diet, and then harmful substances are kind of create the internal environment, and then the external environment, which is much less able to adjust to affect, is social pressures, school, life changes, work, relationships, money, issues like that. And so now that we have kind of a definition of stress and looking at physiologically what's going on, we could kind of take a dive into what actually causes stress. By the way, I'm kind of zipping through this. I try not to hold this up with any fluff or anything. If you do have any questions, please feel free to either raise your hand or write them down, and we can ask them at the end during the Q&A section. So
this is so well done. This is very well done.
Oh, well, thank you.
I just need to point that out.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Debbie. All right. So what causes stress? So again, we've got the external stressors, so toxic chemicals, injury, sun, things like that. A lot of internal stressors really come from hormone imbalance. It's kind of a main driver of stressor, and so there's several different ways to address that, sometimes involving specialists, other times just changing up some diet and lifestyle issues, and that can often address that. So coming down here, we're looking at managing stress. So we're looking at identifying the primary stressor. So, whether it be the physical pain, whether it be, your job, relationship, whatever it may be. We identify what it is. Then we come up with a plan to address it. Regular movement or exercise is going to be absolutely a part of this. Everybody's exercise is going to look different. Somebody who's in pain, their exercise is going to look very different than somebody who's athletic and already, moving a lot. But we need to find the right amount and the right thing for the individual. So then looking at mental exercise, we're given this brain. Our brain thinks about 60 to 65,000 thoughts a day. And depending on which studies you look at, between about 80 to 95% of those thoughts are negative. And so when we look at that from a kind of a historical perspective, the two main drivers of human beings are to survive and to replicate. And so once we've basically what it does is that survival instinct means the mind is always looking for the negative. What's the danger? What's that? And so that kind of drives the majority of our negative thoughts. And so one of the ways that we can do that is to get into the body, start focusing on the heart, where the heart has no fear. It only has love, where the brain only has, kind of fear to really choose from. So that's kind of advanced, but nonetheless. But yeah, so coming back.
I believe over 90% of our thoughts are the same as yesterday as well.
I believe that is correct. Thank you for reminding me of that statistic, which, yep. I mean, it's
easy to do the same. Our brain is hardwired to do the same.
Absolutely.
You have to make a conscious choice to do something different.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We are creatures of habit, and changing habits can be difficult, but that's why working with somebody to change habits is one of the few effective ways.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're looking at the physical, the chemical, the electromagnetic, psychic, nutritional, and thermal stresses. And so looking at these all affect the autonomic nervous system. And so the autonomic nervous system is basically all of the body's processes that run without us having to think about. If I had to think about beating my own heart, I'd be dead. If I had to consciously think about taking every breath, I'd be dead. So the autonomic nervous system takes care of a lot of these functions. If I had to consciously digest my food, again, nothing would happen. And so there's two basic branches of the autonomic nervous system: the sympathetic, which is kind of known as the fight or flight response, and then we've got the parasympathetic, which is its complementary opposite, which is really the rest and digest part of the nervous system. And so what ends up happening is most people, particularly in 21st century living, are living in a sympathetic state, a type A personality, always stressed out, which activates catabolic hormones, creates too much stress. You've got fatigue because you're not actually getting the rest and digest, even when you're sleeping, and then that leads to breakdown. And so what most people need to do, and again, some people kind of tend to run on the parasympathetic side, and we need to balance that out, but most people are running more on the sympathetic side and really looking at trying to balance things out. So the parasympathetic, looking at anabolic hormones. So quick definition: catabolic is basically a breaking down. Anabolic is basically a building up. So if you think about building muscle, you do your workout, you actually tear muscle tissue, it breaks down, and then when it repairs in the anabolic cycle, it builds up stronger, and that's what creates larger and stronger muscles. But yeah, takes care of growth, repair, and then digestion is going to both correlate and contribute to the parasympathetic system. So the way that stress affects pain is, again, the physical, the chemical, the electromagnetic, the mental, the psychic, nutritional, and thermal. So we're going to take a quick look at each of those. And so when we look at physical stress, particularly movement-based stress, we've got a good amount of stress, which is the right amount. She's exercising, a smile on her face. You can tell she's working, but she's not killing herself. Whereas this guy, type A, go, he's overdoing it. And that's, very common, is people tend to either over-exercise or no exercise or under-exercise. And so finding that balance is really going to be what's going to help, move out of lower stress and move out of pain. So then looking at the chemical stressors. So the good way that we address this is eating good, healthy, organic food, making sure that what we're eating is not inflammatory to our systems. There's lots of different symptoms that you might get from being inflammatory or eating inflammatory foods. One of my biggest ones is I will get really stuffy, mucousy nose and sinuses. Some people get like joint aches, which I will get that too if I eat something really crappy, just kind of feeling lethargic, things like that. And then looking at the bad stresses. So synthetic drugs, pesticides, household cleaners, pretty much anything that man has made chemically. Typically, those chemicals are the ideas for the products and chemicals stem from nature, but you can't patent nature. So what they do is they end up taking that natural thing, they synthesize it into something that can be man-made, and then they patent it to make a profit. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it is. And so these are all things to address, look at, and really try to minimize. So then looking at the electromagnetic stresses, again, good stress, sunlight. Typically morning sunlight is best, typically between basically sunrise to probably 11 a.m., give or take. What that does is that maximizes the positive blue light hitting your eyes in the morning, which kind of stimulates you for the day. Also can help with melatonin production at night, getting it as early in the day as possible. Again, helping with sleep. But the early morning sunlight also reduces I believe it's the UVA rays are the cancer causing ones. So you get lots of UVB without the negative UVA in the morning. Afternoon is the worst time for that. But yeah, so, and then the bad side of the stress is too much sunlight, extremely low frequency pollution or electromagnetic frequencies. So you can kind of see at this on this graphic here, what we're able to see is this visible spectrum that's totally within realm of what human beings are meant to be. You look at the ultraviolet light from the sun, again, close enough to the visible spectrum of light, can be harmful if we get too much of it, like getting, a sunburn or being out in the sun too long, but also, has benefits, again, because it's kind of close to that visible spectrum. Then we come over here to the infrared side. Again, same thing. Infrared saunas, infrared lights, all very beneficial technologies in the right dose. Moving too far outside of that, we all know X-rays are poison because you have to wear a lead vest and the person doing it hides behind the wall. Gamma rays, that's nuclear, so that's definitely not it. Coming to microwaves, I have my personal opinion on microwaves that they are absolutely poison. What they do is they basically speed up the vibration of the food, which is what heats it, but it scrambles in a way that it actually like breaks cell walls and basically destroys the food. And you're also getting the radiation from it as well. Radio waves, I got to be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of research on that because, there's no avoiding radio waves. If you got an AM, FM radio, you're getting it. So there's not a whole lot you can really do about that. And I really like to focus on the things that we can change. Yeah. And then again, coming back to the sunlight, making sure we're not getting, sunburnt, too much sun to where it's affecting us negatively. And then looking at psychic or mental stress. So again, stinking thinking. We all have this again, 80 to 95% of our thoughts are negative. And like you mentioned, Debbie, most of them are repetitive. And so looking at cognitive distortions, blaming, denying, generalizing, having double standards for ourselves and other people, trying to mind read, catastrophizing, I think that's how to pronounce that, fallacy of fairness, all or nothing thinking, emotional reasoning, negativity bias, labeling, magical thinking, and over personalizing. So really taking things over personally. But then good stress. So kind of creating a goal, working on it, having inspiration, doing things that create happiness for you, having confidence in, whatever it is that you feel lacking confidence, having motivation, having belief in yourself, in, God, in the world, in belief in humanity, that can be a difficult one sometimes, but, and then being enthusiastic as well. So again, this is the type of stress that most people think about, but we have all these other versions of stress as well. So finishing up with the last couple of stressors. So we're again looking at the nutritional stress. So making sure we're eating good, healthy, organic food, making sure that you're eating for your metabolic type, making sure that you're not getting too many blood sugar swings, things like that. Eating too much, eating too little, eating kind of the standard American diet, which is very poor quality. And again, having that blood sugar dysregulation issues, which is typically from too many unadulterated carbohydrates. That again is the standard American diet. Got somebody else joining. All right, so moving on to the thermal stresses. So again, looking at the good and bad side of thermal stress. So maintaining a good body temperature. We should be at about 98.6 degrees. I used to be in the medical field as a certified nurse aide. And one of the things that I noticed in the patients that I worked with is most people had body temperatures that were down in the mid to low 97s. And what that is a sign of, that's a sign of basically a metabolic dysfunction where we're not creating the fire to, energize our cells. So again, bad stress, being too hot, too cold. Typically too hot is either an inflammation response, an adrenaline response, and then cold is typically some sort of thyroid dysregulation, and looking at things that way. So we kind of talked about all these different factors of stress, and there's lots of temporary and partial fixes, and I'd be curious, if you guys have tried any of these. So looking at, anxiety meds or depression meds, looking at massage to try and reduce stress, trying to use essential oils and aromatherapy, maybe doing hypnosis, which typically does not work in, 1 to 3 session doses. Typically, you need to do a hypnosis every day for 21 to 30 days to actually get it to permanently affect the subconscious mind. Then looking at generalized yoga, again, exercise is a stressor. If you're already stressed out and you add more stress to that, you're only, contributing to your stress and your dysfunction. So, and again, yoga can be helpful typically once you're no longer in pain. A lot of times yoga will, maybe reduce your issues, but exacerbate other contributing factors. Yoga in particular, people tend to overstretch the crap out of their hamstrings, and most hamstrings actually need to be strengthened and shortened rather than just continue to stretch them. It's a little more to that than what I can explain right now, but there we are. So supplements and herbs, again, it may help with symptoms, but the likelihood of you having a, supplement X deficiency is pretty low, or, having a X herb deficiency is pretty low. So, and then meditation as well. So meditation is a wonderful thing. It needs to be done by pretty much everybody in 21st century life, just because we live such stressful lives. But if we don't do it in a way that works for us, it often is going to aggravate the back. And a lot of time it can just be really boring to the ego. So one of the things that I share with clients is kind of moving meditations to where you can do something for 20 minutes. It's a repetitive, gentle movement, and you can actually really kind of calm your system. All right. So looking at the root cause of all of this, again, the stress and the low back pain, because they do contribute to each other. So again, the physical causes can include poor posture, improper, exercise technique, overuse injuries, whether it be a sporting activity or a repetitive sporting activity, or an example would be like a grocery checker who only turns one way and scans one way. They can actually create a torsion through their body. So that's a good example. Looking at traumatic injuries such as a fall or car accident. The lower back is also susceptible to strains and sprains, which can be caused by sudden movements, heavy lifting, repetitive activities that put a strain on the lower back. muscles and ligaments. Also, organ problems can cause low back pain as well. So organ problems such as kidney stones, bladder infections, ovarian cysts, things like that can cause low back pain. And these types of pain can be dull and achy, or sharp and stabbing. And it can be felt in the lower back, sides, near the spine, or kind of more out to the outside of the back. And looking at the emotional causes of low back pain, the emotional stress and anxiety can contribute to low back pain. When the body's under stress, again, if you have like a disc issue, all of the weight of your body above that disc is going to be crammed down on it. And the way the body works is our spine is curved with 3 different curvatures that creates the seat for each disc. And so a lot of the physical issues with dealing with low back pain just really have to do with reshaping the spine. And it can be done with chiropractic, but it can also be done with corrective exercise and getting those muscles to hold and pull you back into proper alignment. So yeah, also I guess we'll mention another thing emotional causes is financial issues. So financial issues can actually cause low back pain, which I know sounds kind of weird, but if you look at things from kind of an Eastern chakra perspective, the root of safety and security lies in the root chakra, which is right down in our tailbone and sacrum. So with that being said, I believe that every model is wrong, and yet many of them are useful. With that being said, the spiritual causes of low back pain, spiritual or energetic imbalances can also contribute. Some people believe that emotional stress and trauma can manifest as physical pain, and mind-body techniques such as meditation or yoga can, again, work on solving these issues. And so, again, looking at the root cause, we want to really address what the root cause is. And so with my studies through the Chek Institute and Paul Chek's teaching, he came up with this, what's called the Chek totem pole, or the Chek survival totem pole. And what this is basically a sequence or a foundation for how the body starts to break down. And so if we look up at the top here, the psyche kind of regulates everything. So your ability to have good and healthy thoughts regulates everything below down here. We may be able to breathe just fine. We may be able to chew just fine. We might have all these function of organs is working great. But if our psyche is really screwed up, for lack of a better term, we can take our own lives, even if all these other things are working. And so that's really the key that kind of drives everything. Beyond that, again, looking at things from a survival perspective, the breath. 2, 3, 4 minutes, depending on who you are and what training you've done, you stop breathing, you're pretty much dead. So again, everything's on kind of an urgency type of scale. And so beyond just the ability to take a breath as an organism, we also have to look at each individual cell and what's called cellular respiration. And so each cell on planet Earth, not even just in humans, but each cell on planet Earth uses 2 things for energy: glucose, which is basically sugar, and oxygen. And so if we're not breathing correctly, if our cells aren't breathing correctly, we're going to have an energy deficit. And so moving down, looking at the ability to chew and basically make sure that we don't grind our teeth out. So again, perspective from a survival point, as long as we're breathing, we're good, we can drink, cool. Food comes after that. And again, the ability to chew. So if we grind our teeth out from, maybe a TMJ issue, or maybe we're not taking care of our teeth and our teeth rot out of our head, and we don't have the technology to get dentures or other 21st century dental things, it's going to affect our ability to chew. And so again, if there's lots of people that have jaw dysfunctions, a lot of times you can actually see people when they talk or chew, you'll see kind of to the side and then open it back up to the side, and it's not clamping up and down properly, and the teeth aren't meeting properly. Now, most people think if you've got teeth issues, you go to a dentist. Well, guess what? The curvature of the neck basically defines whether or not you have the lower jaw protruding or the upper jaw protruding, or, having it balanced. So everything kind of plays a role on what that is. So moving on to the next part, the ability to see. So again, being able to see, and then here I kind of lump these two together because they're very similar, being able to see and hear predators to avoid becoming the prey, but also being able to see and hear prey so that you can be a predator and eat and sustain yourself. And again, one of the things that throws things off, and I'll use myself as an example, you can see I wear glasses. So my right eye is stronger than my left. My right ear is also stronger than my left. So what that does is I start turning my head to the left to listen with my good ear and look with my good eye. And what that does is that then changes the way our spine sits. So particularly with C1, the atlas bone is the C1 vertebra in the spine. Basically, the skull rests on that. Now, the interesting thing about the atlas is it is the only spinal bone that doesn't have any bony connections. So it is held in place to the skull and to the C2 vertebra only by muscles. It's also the only vertebra in the entire body that every single nerve in your body runs through. And so if that becomes out of alignment, what ends up happening is, whether it be rotating this way, up, down, side to side, forward, backward, whichever axis it moves, it's going to pinch off a nerve. What happens when you pinch off a nerve? Well, who knows? You might get some muscle issues, you might get some tingling, or what ends up happening is, because we don't have sensory nerves in our organs, we don't really have access to any quote unquote symptoms. So what ends up happening is basically the atlas gets knocked out of alignment, the nerves get pinched, and now our organs aren't functioning, and we aren't even aware of it. We don't know what organ it is. We don't know exactly what it is, because every nerve runs through it, and we may or may not get symptoms that are acute enough to be able to recognize. So I hope that all makes sense. So again, moving further down the line here, the function of the organs. Again, same thing. The organs and the muscles are what's called innervated, or they're fed by the same nerves. So if we have an issue with an organ, let's say, I'll again use myself, I have digestive challenges. And so if my digestive challenges create inflammation, because again, the stomach is right behind or right in front of the, we'll say upper low back, maybe lower mid back, that's going to affect the muscles that hold the spine together, could affect the spine itself, everything else. So you kind of see how everything breaks down and feeds off of each other. So again, looking at the limbic system. So this is the emotional system, and kind of looking at things, from a metaphoric perspective. This one down here kind of represents somebody being a pain in the ass, being your colon. Maybe somebody's a headache to you. Looking at things from the emotional perspective. And again, logic, the mind, and emotions, the limbic system, run on two separate systems. So they do, feed off of each other, but they are still different systems, which is why a lot of times we can know what to do logically, but we still have an emotional drive to do something else. And so there are ways to get those two more working together and online. And then down here in the sacrum and coccyx. So the sacrum is the bone basically which the spine sits on, and then the coccyx is actually called the proper name for the tailbone. The importance of that is, again, that is the bottom of the nervous system, which again goes from brain all the way down to the coccyx. And so everything basically from there is affected by everything above. And so then we've got all of these issues that are kind of health related. And then we've got the musculoskeletal things with the slave joints. So you're looking at ankles, you're looking at knees, hips, back, doesn't show shoulders, but you're looking at all of these things that basically correlate with or create these musculoskeletal dysfunctions. So you can see, if you have a breathing issue, you can do all the exercise and the things you want for the slave joints, but you're never going to actually address the root cause. Or let's say maybe you've got a TMJ issue. Again, not going to totally resolve the symptom that you are wanting to resolve. That's kind of the major breakdown of how to address the root cause as well as dealing with a symptom. And so that's my take on helping people with resolving their pain issues and addressing these stressors, is starting with the physical body and then kind of working back from there. Next slide is actually how to relieve stress. So these are kind of the 6 main ways that I wanted to teach you today to start addressing some of these stressors. So the first one, looking at the physical body. So using a foam roller on your spine. It's going to address your muscles. It's kind of like a massage, but depending on how well you do, you can actually get kind of a chiropractic popping type of sensation. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It all depends on if you have an immobility in your spine where kind of things aren't necessarily fused, but they're bound up and they're not really moving. Doing some mobility work on a foam roller can absolutely break that open and, allow some mobility through. Problem is, if you already have the space and the muscles just aren't strong enough and tight enough to hold everything together, and you overuse that foam roller, what you're doing is you're going to create more of that space, and you can create issue or potentially disc bulges. And so that's why you really have to be careful and really know what you're doing with these types of things to make sure that you are helping and not causing more damage. So then looking at the chemical stressors, so reducing, eliminating packaged processed foods, looking at all of your household chemical cleaning products. I would even challenge you to go to your cleaning product cabinet, grab say 2 or 3 of them, look on the ingredient list, and just Google like the 3 first ingredients in each one. And maybe Google the potential negative health effects. It'll probably shock you, to be quite frank. So all about educating oneself and letting you make an informed decision. So then looking at the electromagnetic side of things. So keeping your phone away from you. If you're going to use it, try and use it on speakerphone, unless you're in public, which, hopefully you're not that person. And then also turning you off your Wi-Fi at night. It can really help with improving sleep quality a lot of times, because again, the Wi-Fi signals, they're agitating, just kind of like the overhead lights in schools, the fluorescent lights. They have that kind of flicker that should be kind of not seeable to the naked eye, but it affects the nervous system like crazy. You can probably imagine just sitting there. I was actually just in my daughter's school the other day for a Parent Appreciation Day, and I was able to last about 10 minutes with the lights. And I mean, granted, there were a lot of people in there as well, but I had to get out of there because it was too much overload for my system. So yeah, then looking at the mental or psychic stresses. So making sure that you have goals and you're actively working towards them. We don't necessarily need to achieve all the goals, but happiness and progress really come with, progress toward a worthy goal. So that can really help working with that, as well as, talking to a counselor, therapist, coach, things like that. So again, nutritional, focusing on micro and macronutrients and reducing or eliminating food colorings and dyes. So one of the best ways to kind of get micronutrients would be to say, do juicing, making sure you're using organic source material so that you're not kind of getting a concentrated form of the pesticides and whatnot. And then macronutrients, so looking at your proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Again, most people in the US are way overeating carbohydrates. Yes, they are energy, but unless we utilize that energy through physical movement, we're typically going to affect our blood sugar and then store that excess energy as fat. And then last but not least, reducing or eliminating food colorings and dyes. There's a lot of research that says a lot of food colorings are actually causing a lot of the ADD in children, as well as, again, the excess carbohydrates. I invite you to jump on Google, look up what the negative effects of yellow number 5 are, or look up what the negative effects of red number 40 are. Looking up what the negative effects of carrageenan, because that's a common food additive that companies add in processed food. So again, all of these little things contribute to physiologic stress and create more issues. And then last but not least, looking at thermal stress. So exploring hot and cold exposures. So looking at cold showers, which can be torturous, at least when you're first getting used to them. Oftentimes you feel amazing afterwards. So it can be difficult to get into the habit of, but it's a worthwhile thing, because why on earth would people do that if there wasn't benefit to it? And then sauna. So sauna is getting a good sweat on, really helping with the detoxification systems and, regulating your own temperature. Again, part of that is going to be looking at, thyroid health as well. So with all that being said, those are kind of the 6 easy and simple ways that you can start making change today. But I want to kind of take a look at what life might look like. So picture this: you wake up in the morning to the sound of your alarm, not because of your pain forcing you out of your peaceful night's sleep. Stretch, feeling the pleasant warmth in your muscles, and swing your legs over the side of the bed. Standing up with ease, no stiffness, maybe a little stiffness, but no grimacing. Just a smooth transition from sleeping to the day ahead. And then as you start your day, you start to notice the small things, easily bending to get the pan out of the cupboard for breakfast without hesitation, tying your shoelaces without breaking a sweat, sitting through your morning meeting without the constant need to shift and adjust. Every motion is deliberate, fluid, and, most importantly, pain-free. So you're not having to think about, oh, can I move this way, without flaring something up. It just becomes, hey, I'm going through my life without having to think about it. So, and then exercise becomes a joy rather than a chore, and feeling your individual muscles and knowing that when you get the right exercise at the right, resistance and all these right factors for you, like exercise can feel amazing. You don't constantly have to modify your workouts anymore to accommodate the back pain. You run, you lift, you stretch, each movement reminding you of the strength and resilience of your body. Exercises aren't your enemy anymore. They're actually your secret weapon, your defense against back pain. You make it through the day, and maybe in the evening, you start spending quality time with your family, playing with the kids or grandkids without the looming fear of your back going out, fully present, enjoying the moment, not preoccupied with managing your discomfort. And then your days end as they begin, free of pain. No longer do you need to strategically place your pillows to find a sleeping position that doesn't aggravate your back. Simply lie down, let out a sigh of contentment, and slip into sleep, And so that's a life that you could potentially live. A life where back pain is a distant memory, thing of the past. A life of freedom, resilience, and unhindered enjoyment. It's a life where you're not merely surviving anymore, but truly thriving again. And that's absolutely a life within your reach. So I want to kind of take a brief moment. One of my former clients did a beautiful testimonial where she kind of talks about stress and how exercise really helped her through stress and frankly through the loss of both of her parents. So this is about 3 minutes long, and then we'll finish up here and get to the Q&A section.
One major thing was the blood sugar thing.
That set up a monumentous situation in my brain as far as what happens when your sugar level drops and you don't eat right. So that was a major, in making sure that I started eating better, healthier, taking the hypoglycemia into account, knowing that I had to eat my proteins and had to balance all of those types of things out, especially on workout day. When I started with you, my mom was extremely ill. And the stress, I never realized, I had always heard about it, how exercise helps. And then I did take Dustin's advice in doing that. And very shortly after I started seeing progress and myself feeling better and gaining a little bit more strength and a little bit more energy, I got very addicted very quickly. And then after she passed, of course, I had to take off time. But, and even after my dad passed, I had to take some time, but I didn't stay away. I was feeling it in my neck, I was feeling it in my shoulders, I felt it in my back, I felt it just everywhere. And I do think that if I hadn't come to you when I did, I think all of those things would have escalated into just a total mental collapse at the time. So I think, thank God Dustin owned a gym and had a great trainer, dealt with an older person trying to figure out, nobody would touch me without it here. And I did drill those, and I did all of those exercises that we've been doing to strengthen. And I actually really proud of myself with your help of getting out of that without a chiropractor at the time.
I recommended you go to a chiropractor when you came to me that day.
Yep. But I couldn't, once I started calling, nobody would see me with, without x-rays.
Right.
And I didn't have a medical doctor, and because I've been out of work for a year. It was one of those things where I just went, okay, Lord, me and Brian got to do this. And we did, and you pulled out everything in your box. But God love you. You pulled me through all of it.
Cool. So that was Cher's experience. That was kind of one of my clients in the past that I've worked with that kind of dealt with a lot of stress in her life. She went through a really hard time in life when we were working together, and as she said, she was able to get through it. So basically, the pain-free life coaching method is we start by reducing your pain and stress caused by structural issues. So we start by working with the physical body, making physical adjustments to address whatever's actually going on. We work together to reduce the 6 kinds of stress through simple lifestyle changes. So simple nutritional changes, simple, lifestyle changes, making sure that we're reducing all of the stress that we can. And we're co-creating a movement practice that is enjoyable and sustainable. Not everybody is meant to, kind of do quote unquote corrective exercise for the rest of their lives. A lot of times people just need to get kind of over that hump, out of pain, start moving, and then they're just their fun activities, whether it be golfing, playing basketball, going for runs, bike rides, whatever it may be. Oftentimes those are enough to keep your body moving without having that pain come back. So certainly exercise can be an important part of it, but a lot of times once we move beyond the hump, or at least far enough beyond the hump, we can just go ahead and, go back to living regular life. And so then again, we address the root causes and the underlying factors together through the holistic lifestyle coaching. Again, making sure that, the symptom doesn't come back because we address the root cause. And then again, finishing up with getting you strong so that you can use your body and get back to your active lifestyle. And so today I have an offer for anybody that's interested. I will say this offer is only for people that have not already had spinal fusion surgery. I will work with clients that have had that, but that's on a one-on-one basis rather than a one-off session basis, as opposed to this program that I offer, which does come with a money-back guarantee. So if you qualify for the program, what you get is 12 weekly pain reduction sessions. It's a $2,400 value. And really, we're going to address what's going on for you. I guess I forgot to put in here, we do assessments in the beginning so that we can actually find out what's going on rather than just kind of, guessing and throwing darts at a dartboard. So then we also include the copies of your recorded sessions. So you not only get the knowledge from it, but you also get the exercise cues, the specific exercises that you can go ahead and do on your own. Again, typically 2, maybe 3 more times that week outside of what you and I do one-on-one. You also get access to the VIP Facebook group to answer all your questions in between your weekly sessions, access to the library of all resources, so looking at a lot of the nutrition and lifestyle coaching things. And then for people that do qualify, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. basically we'll during the consultation we'll kind of come up with an agreement and what that looks like. Typically that's going to look like within 30 days your pain level is going to be down somewhere between a 2 to a 5, with the hopefulness thought that things are heading in the right direction, and be able to get you down to about a 0 to 2 pain level within that 90 days over that 12 weeks. And so the value of all that is a $7,000 value. You know, I actually had one client a few years ago. I asked him, you know, what he thought, you know, if he would have known that he could get out of pain and get back to golfing the way he wanted to, what that would be worth to him. And his answer was, frankly, shocked me, was $10,000. And so with that money back guarantee, your investment's only $2,000 if we do the consultation and it is a good fit. So there's that. I guess that is my presentation. So I guess I want to open it up to you guys and take a look at what you guys have to say or ask. So let's jump on here and take any questions if anybody has any.
Well, thank you for doing that. That was wonderfully done. That had to take a lot of work.
It took more than a day, I'll say that.
Yeah. I appreciate how you emphasized cognitive behavioral therapy, because that was my answer to everything. So I appreciate that you did a multi-dimensional approach and taking a look at all of the ways that pain affects us, and all of the avenues that can also be our aid to healing. So I thought it was a good, thorough explanation. I thought it was very well done.
Beautiful. I guess I'm curious, what was your one biggest takeaway?
Well, I think you gave a lot of avenues that we can take personal responsibility for ourselves. Because I think that's my biggest struggle is doing that. And I see all of these different avenues for healing that I have, and it's like I get bombarded by, you know, the enormity of it. And I think you broke down very simply ways that we can recenter ourselves to turn off the sympathetic nervous system and turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, and contrast where you should really put your priorities. And it's turning on that parasympathetic nervous system, you know. And there's so many avenues through nature, meditation, and deep breathing, and body scans, and, you know, there's so many different ways through our pets, through our loved ones, that we can find our center and find healing instead of just managing stress and having to fill up depleted cups constantly, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I thought you did a wonderful job with that. I was leading up to this, I was thinking, we need to do this, and you did it. And so I appreciate that. You did a wonderful job.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Andrea, I'm just reading your comment here. Oh, very good. Same basic kind of takeaway as you, which was, you know, that the mind kind of controls everything. And, but with that being said, you can still control the mind and still have these other physical, emotional issues beyond that. So that's why addressing all of these different factors is so important. So,
Yep.
beautiful. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming on the call today. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. You know, I look forward to hopefully catching you next time, or seeing you on a call if you'd like. Also, if you'd like, go ahead and shoot me a message on Facebook, and I will go ahead and send over a consultation link if anybody's interested. No other questions?
No, I think that was it. That was wonderful. Until next time.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, everyone else, for coming, and thank you for being vocal and
have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.